Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at BTV World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the political situation in the country in the wake of what has happened, of course, with regards to the ex-Prime Minister and the PTI chairman and the assassination attempt on him that took place along with his Hakiki Azadi March. This is, of course, something that is of much concern in terms of the way that the politicization of the country is also being impacted, and of course there is the very important statement as well that have come forward from the person who actually shot him, who has cited both political and religious reasons behind his motivation. But of course, with regards to the kind of intolerance that exists, we also saw example of that today, in which unfortunately the bike of a very poor young man was burnt down by PTI workers, and this is of course quite unfortunate considering what is going on both politically and in terms of the society, where we don't find any form of tolerance and we find people resorting to such means whenever they think that they can actually do that and put forward their dominance over anybody who is vulnerable. And it is unfortunate that somebody like that young man had to face that, since that was his only way of earning for his family. We're going to talk about how that is reflective of what is going on in terms of the society and of course how people are reacting to the situation. There was also of course the very important press conferences that took place, one by the PTI chairman himself, who talked about how after he gets better the long march will resume, and that of course this is something that he has also previously mentioned and has been saying that there are threats to his life, that there will be attempts to kill him, and so this is something that he believes has been said by him even prior to this particular incident. And so we don't really see in terms of what is going to be moving forward. The decision by the PTI to call off the long march doesn't seem to be on the horizon, but it may be delayed considering the health condition of the PTI chairman. Meanwhile, we also of course saw a press conference by the Interior Minister and the Information Minister yesterday, and then another one by the Information Minister today, in which a number of issues were highlighted, along with the fact that the government is of course in full support of any form of assistance that is required in terms of the investigation that is needed to be carried out. They've also asked the Punjab government to form a high-level JIT to investigate and to bring to light what sort of issues took place and who's responsible. But they're also really clear on the fact that there has been a security lapse, and this, of course, needs to be accounted for by the Punjab government. Of course, from the centre, this particular assistance is there, and they also condemn the incident and they wish for a healthy and speedy recovery of the PTI chairman, something that has been echoed from the Prime Minister to other ministers as well throughout, including the Foreign Minister, Information Minister and the Interior Minister. And so of course it's important to understand what the page that the government currently is on and how we need to proceed forward in terms of course the politics of the country and the economic situation of the country, and what is in the betterment of the people at large, and how perhaps all political leaders need to keep national interest in mind whenever they make their decisions, even moving forward from this particular situation. There is of course also a very important aspect that is being highlighted by the federal ministers, which is of the fact that there shouldn't be any speculation, there shouldn't be any blaming, which unfortunately is being done by the PTI side, because of course prior to any investigation nobody can talk about anything, and then of course to blame people for such high positions is of course a very huge and very serious claim, and this of course is not something to be taken lightly. So we're going to talk about all of this in our show today and try to understand what sort of an evolving situation is going to be like in the coming days and months. For this and more, as always, in the studios I've been joined by senior analysts Farooq Batafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by our guest Mr. Ali Rashid, leader PPP, and Rana Maqbool Ahmed, Senator PMLN. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on the show today. Before we move on to the discussion, let us take a look at the short clip of the young man whose bike was unfortunately burnt down.
किसने जलाया है? ये आवाम ने इधर जो खड़ी थी।
कितने लोग थे?
तकरीबन थे कोई 50-60 बंदे थे।
मारा भी आपको?
नहीं, मारा नहीं है। ये क्यों नहीं?
बाइक चलाने के अलावा भी कोई जरिया रोजगार है आपका?
सर, वो है कौन थे? ये पीटीआई के लोग थे सर।
कितने पैसे रोज कमा लेते हो?
मैं 1000 तक कमा के घर का खर्च।
The kind of grief that is very evident in the young person's on the young person's face and what he is saying, because of course this is not just a blow to one particular asset that he has, but it's also a blow to him supporting his entire family, because the bike of course was his means to do that. And so we of course condemn this incident, and we are obviously it's very unfortunate that such things happen. But of course when we talk about irresponsibility and we try to connect all the ripples involved, then of course this is something that perhaps the political leadership also needs to take in mind, especially when the impact on the public at large is quite evident. This of course is important in the discussion as well, but in terms of what is going forward, I want to first talk to Mr. Rana Maqbool Ahmed in terms of what of course exists within the larger public, in terms of the kind of controversies that we have seen, the kind of speculations that we have seen. The political temperature has been of course very, very high, and unfortunately there is a lot at stake right now, and perhaps this volatile situation is being played upon by certain political parties. But at the end of the day, what is important right now is how we would like to proceed forward. The government stance seems to be very clear in terms of their assistance, in terms of what they want to see as part of the investigation. But is it really going to be as simple as that? Because of course when we take a look at the formation of a JIT, the investigation taking place, this is very time consuming, and of course it requires a lot of cooperation, but we don't really see that particular stance also coming in from the PTS side. They seem to be outrightly blaming people. They seem to be still wanting to continue with their long march, and perhaps with a renewed fervor. What do you think is going to happen moving forward, and how will the government be able to ensure that there is peace and that the people of Pakistan are protected?
Bismillah. Sana, thank you very much. Yesterday was a woeful day for all practical purposes. A bigger tragedy could have happened, but God willing, it didn't. Though a poor man was killed, and there were certain people who were injured. So God has saved us from a bigger tragedy, because everybody's life is very valuable. But the political leader who has worked there for more than quarter of a century, if he has gained some experience or some expertise in the political field, then he becomes an invaluable asset. Invaluable asset. Therefore, I personally think the day passed, it was very, very worrisome day. Now you have rightly pointed out, let me point out the basic cause for ailment. Now, we are not true to ourselves. If at all we are politicians, we should be truthful politicians. Every time and every juncture, we try to make capital out of hoaxes, unfortunately. And yesterday's incident, if you have listened to the statement of the person who made an assassination attempt on the leader, what did he say? So this is the impact of clergy on both sides. The leader says, I want to establish a Riyasat-e-Medina. Can it be done with this conduct, with this level of performance, and with this level of dedication to truth and piety? It's just not possible. This is what the other person who is the criminal, what did he say? That he reacts on this claim that he can establish Riyasat-e-Medina. We should stop exploiting the religious sentiments of the people, because this has been never a healthy venture on the part of the politicians. So this is one of the reasons that tension is there, and you might have observed of late, there were politicians who were attacked by the rabid type of people, and they killed the governor, and they also attacked on our minister, who is a very cultured and illustrious minister like Ahsan Iqbal. So I personally think we should stop resorting to such type of exploitations. And I also assure you this, the forces of conformism, if you don't deal them properly, they come up as stronger than the forces of rationality and objectivity. So this is what is to be understood by the politicians, and they should stop doing this. And he also objected to this, that he says that I'm just like a prophet, and you should spread and disseminate my message. This is what he understood, message to the people. So these are all irreparable initiatives by a politician. They should not. They should not do this. This is one of the fundamental steps which are to be taken. Now you have said about what can happen now. It's all the spirit of generosity, magnanimity, the spirit of amity, accommodation amongst the politicians.
Right, absolutely. But
We need-
of course, we need, of course, signs that actually exists, and that when we move forward, that is something that we're
Listen,
going to be seeing.
I may mention right here.
Yes.
Why did the president of Pakistan his efforts petered out? He came forward. He should have continued with his struggle. He should have given some productive results. Why did he got disheartened and whisked away? He is the president of Pakistan. So such people, they have to play a role and act as a bridge between the two parties who are fighting against each other for nothing.
Right, absolutely. But of
election-
course, the onus is also on the parties to be actually coming on the table as well. But let's see what happens with that regard. But I want to understand how likely that is a possibility, because of course this is something that is interesting to say, or it's good to hear. But when we actually look at the possibilities and the situation at hand, it seems unlikely that very soon something like that is going to happen. If not, if there are certain backdoor channels that are being utilized, or if there is dialogue moving forward, please let us know. And Mr. Ali, I'll take your intake on this as well, in terms of course, the kind of dialogue that is required, or the kind of settlement that is required, considering everything right now is so high in terms of what the situation is, or how volatile it can possibly be. What sort of possibilities exist? Because at the end of the day, the kind of statements that we're seeing coming in, especially from the PTI, don't seem to be pointing towards any sort of such possibility of actually sitting down. If you're outrightly blaming the Prime Minister and others, or senior government and military officials, then this just clearly means that, you know, there is much less window to play around with. If there is something that is going on and can possibly happen, can you let us know how exactly we can proceed regarding this?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. You see, you've asked a lot of things at the same time, so I'll start off by saying we need to take these things in different layers. I think this is all very confusing, because I think whatever Mr. Khan has been saying recently and in the recent past have all been very confusing. You know, he started off by saying he's going to Islamabad and he'll have a peaceful protest there. Then he said it's going to be a Khuni Inqilab. Then after that, he said, I'll march even if I have to protest for 11 months. I'm going to keep going and keep protesting till elections. I'll keep protesting. Then now he hasn't even, I mean, if you even take up his recent speech or his address, he's talking about the fact that he's not well, so he's going to call off the protest, but he's asking the other people to continue protesting in different cities. And at the same time, he's saying, now I'm going to come to Sindh and take care of PPP and get those people Hakiki Azadi. The man is not making sense. Whatever happened with him is very unfortunate. I condemn it. I think my party leadership has condemned it. But there are a lot of question marks surrounding this entire incident. The security Punjab government, which is, by the way, PTI's, was responsible for providing foolproof security. The Interior Ministry had also, on numerous occasions, given them the suggestion that maybe if you feel that you have so many threats, you should have a bulletproof shield in front of your container while you're going. There's nothing wrong with it. At that time, they're like, no, you guys are scared of us. Kaape tang rahi hain. That's why you want this kind of thing. So any suggestion regarding security which came from our side or the federal government was discarded by them. And they said, you're just scared of us. That's why you're just wanting a march to stop. Now I'll go on to the second layer of things. Now, Mr. Khan had his own party member, Mr. Faisal Wavda, who later got suspended, come in and say, okay, look, I see a lot of blood and I see the security situation is not the kind of security situation which the Long March should proceed. They should not go ahead. Now, today, Imran Khan has also said that one day before the incident, I was informed by establishment sources. Just take a moment to digest what he's actually. He's saying, I was informed by ISI officials who are my well-wishers in the establishment that this is going to happen. But if you knew this is going to happen, then why did you risk your life and so many other people's life? A person died. Why did you go ahead with it? And if you were aware of such a thing, why didn't you announce it that, this is in mind? I mean, it makes sense, right? If you have some knowledge that some attack is being carried out, and it was very precise information, he said, a day before, I was informed by officials from that organization who are my well-wishers, who I have good relationships with. They told me that I will be attacked on this day. Now, why would you go ahead and risk your life and all these people, the poor people who are following you, your followers, your party workers, etc., etc.? Then after that, I would like to say he should make any allegations without evidence, because if he has evidence, then he should bring it forward. Tell us who are those people, right? I mean, things have come to the fact where his life is at stake. There was an assassination attempt. So how can things get worse than this? No. Then if you have all this information, Arshad Sharif, you're taking the establishment's name. When it comes to you, you take without any concrete evidence or without any. There's nothing. This is really wrong.
Ali Rashid, you're very right about it, and of course that's how the things should be, but unfortunately we are seeing that the names are being taken. And Rana Saab, just wanted to come towards you. You yourself are a very senior politician, and earlier of course you were talking about the dialogue. I think people like you are the best suited for initiating a dialogue. You have taken the name of President of Pakistan, and just wanted to know from you, as we know that PTI keeps on taking names from the institutions. Isn't it the time that few of the retired prominent names from the institutions who have served in the past, they should be included in that dialogue as well, so that it can, it can portray as if all of the parties were in the dialogue, and we need to move forward from here. Number one, and number two, in the speech of Imran Khan, obviously we were expecting that he would call it off and he would tell his people to go home, do not protest anymore right now, because obviously the temperature is very high, and at this time it should have been called off, and then later on just give it a bit of time for the dialogue, and it was the best suitable time for the dialogue, sir?
Raisa, you're absolutely correct. It's a very creative proposal, and we should adopt this proposal. It can work. The main obstruction for us is the unyielding and inflexible attitude of Mr. Imran Khan. And he's always violent. He throws the volleys of indignation and uses very derogatory language. His style is very provocative. So these things he has to control and manage. He's a leader. The leader-like attitude is patience, and perseverance. It's not total indignation and talking to the people and telling them and indoctrinating into their minds that they should go violent and play with the lives of their fellow citizens. So there has to be attitudinal change in the leader. You might have observed in the history of this world, the violent leaders, they played with the fate of their nation, though they were very popular. So hence he has to look back and act in patience and in perseverance. For that purpose, you might have observed yesterday and today, he wanted a wrong story to be registered as his case. There are certain elders of his party who resisted. They said, for God's sake, you are naming the personalities from the different formations of this country. Do you have any proof? We don't have any proof. As my friend has rightly pointed out, if they don't have any substantial and irrefutable and tangible evidence for anything to prove, why should they talk like this?
Right,
a leader
absolutely.
has to be
And
extremely
Rana Sahab, I want
responsible.
to talk a bit more. I'll come back to you, but I want to talk a little bit more about this particular aspect as well, because at the end of the day, it's not just this time around. Of course, this time perhaps there has been a blatant name calling, but at the end of the day, this is something that has been said previously as well. Outright statements have been made in terms of who's responsible and who's accountable for any sort of actions, and of course, also posing a threat or danger to the country is not thinking about the country. So there are so many things that have been earlier said by PTI as well. But Farooq, when we take a look at these statements and these aspects of what has been said by the PTI chairman and the PTI's leadership in terms of actually outrightly claiming something, not just in terms of who's responsible or behind the attacks, but also in terms of the knowledge that they've had or what they seem to have information about. Why is this not being taken into account in terms of any sort of investigation, whether it's Arshad Sharif's murder or this particular assassination attempt, and how exactly will that even be taken into account, considering what the PTI stance seems to be? Of course, there is the call for JIT, but will these people who are making such claims be taken into account and asked to back it up with evidence or to provide more information as to why they're saying what they're saying?
Right, Sana, first of all, seeing Imran Khan back on the screen, hail and hearty. Of course, he has lost some blood. There were bullets in his leg, and also there was a fracture of a bone as well. One can wish him, one does wish him, a speedy recovery, and it was heartening to see him back. But I was saddened by, these claims that he kept on making. There are two or three things why. Earlier you were talking about evidences, and you were talking about, all these complaints or claims about, complicity of certain individuals. The biggest problem at this moment is there is no evidence, and I would have actually, attributed all of this to these whispering campaigns that continue in the country, and the kind of conspiracy theory minded people there are. But we are not talking about a person who is educated in schools that I've been to. This is an Oxonian. This is a person who has been educated in some of the best institutions in the country and in the world. So anybody of that caliber actually resorting to these unfounded claims is sad. There is another very important factor. Pakistan has been fighting terrorism for 20 years. In that, we have lost so many people. Our soldiers are still sacrificing their lives. And remember that the stories about the soldiers who die are reported on television, and the stories of people who are intelligence services are not even reported, right? And that number might be far bigger because the nature of the beast, the nature of the challenge is such. And at that time, I come to television and I start speculating about things without any evidence, without any concrete thing to actually offer. That is disheartening because it demoralizes one of the forces that is actually keeping everything together, right? Similarly, then comes the issue of this comparison, Arshad Sharif and Imran Khan Sahib. Arshad Sharif, no matter what you do, was a dear friend, but he died in a foreign country. He died in a country where you don't have that kind of rule of law, you don't have any kind of documentation. No matter what you do, it will be very close to speculation. But what happened to Imran Khan Sahib happened in broad daylight, it happened in Punjab, it happened in Pakistan. There too, he was repeatedly told to take care of his own safety and security. Yesterday I raised the issue of this bulletproof glass. Today once again I think everybody is talking about it because there was Punjab government's SOP that there should be such a glass. Why was it not implemented? Then why is it that there wasn't any kind of cordon to ensure security or safety of the caravan? These are important questions. Earlier, Rana Sahib was saying that a great tragedy was averted. That is true, Imran Khan Sahib is safe. But somebody asked someone who was dying, when will the end of times come? And he said that for me it is that time. You know, the one man actually died. For his family, for his relatives, it is the biggest tragedy possible. And why actually expose your citizens to such kind of insecurity, such kind of threats? It could have all been taken care of, and yet we keep on actually keep passing the parcel. So it is saddening to see a national leader who gains every minute by actually cooperating with the system, casting aspersions on the system that has actually made him. So it was disheartening, and I hope that he will call off his people who are actually brutalizing the innocents on the street and who are attacking national symbols and national institutions.
Yes, Sana, I just wanted to mention just a one-liner. You know, Farrukh has rightly pointed out, and such beautiful words. I mean, I can never match Farrukh's words.
They are not beautiful, they are angry words.
The way he has used words for obviously the people who's been serving Pakistan at their best. Obviously, I'm talking about one name which has been taken. I personally know a few things, and I just wanted to share here. Obviously, first of all, we share the name Faisal, but at the same time, I know quite a few things about the general they're talking about. He has served Pakistan at his best, and during the time when Pakistan was facing war on terror, and obviously Pakistan fought bluntly, and the officer, they keep on mentioning that name. Every time they mention his name, it hurts me, it hurts my feeling. Obviously, obviously knowing his services.
And by the way, very quickly,
knowing his services, number one, and number two, at the same time, I hail from a family, many of my family members, they have served Pakistan Army, number one, and number two, there are so many friends who's given life for this country by serving Pakistan Army. To me, it really hurts.
And by the way, Faisal, explain to me, when you are actually, a party is claiming that the present government is reduced only to 24 kilometers. How is it that you can attribute anything done under your purview to a government that is, to a prime minister or an interior minister who are sitting outside, who, by the way, there are cases against the interior minister being framed by the Punjab government.
Exactly.
Then how come they can actually go and do something of that sort?
Absolutely. But what is unfortunate, of course, at the end of the day is that there is so much perhaps that we have seen occur domestically and a part of the politics at home, but how it's being viewed internationally or how it is being looked at by the countries around the world, especially when it comes to important intelligence institutions and them being targeted by the political leadership. And then, of course, the way that there is a lot of rift between the provinces and the center, that, of course, is another issue where we're blaming each other for things that we need to be accountable for. Mr. Ali, considering, of course, that we're not sitting in isolation, everything that is happening within the country has an impact on Pakistan's relations with other countries. We had very important visits just recently as well. We concluded the visit to China, and there's important engagements regarding the CPEC being carried forward. And our economic situation also requires full support and engagement with the international community. how exactly are we going to be able to proceed forward from the particular situation that now we've been put in, especially by the PTI, considering that even our institutions, our intelligence agencies are being blamed? How exactly are we going to be able to defend the country or portray the country in the light that we need to?
Yeah, see, that's exactly what the main question is. How will we do it when we have this man who is going out of his way to defame our establishment? And the gentleman, I'll second my friend who was talking about the person from the army, which he's accusing. He enjoys a very good reputation. He served in Karachi also as a brigadier, and he did some really good work. And his services are appreciated. And as Major General Faisal is also doing a great job. And it's very unfortunate that these allegations are being hurled and people are being defamed for no good reason. And that being said, look, I feel, what is the purpose? What is the motive of this long march? The guy, Imran Khan, says, I want elections. I mean, right now, he has the government of Punjab, he has government of KP, he's got government of Gilgit, he's got government of Kashmir, he's got a lot of MNAs. He should break all the assemblies, and all the people should resign. There'll be elections automatically. So this is not about elections. It is something else. It's about which he is openly talking about, appointment which is due to happen this month. It is, he wants the person of his choice. So, well, he should be told that the world doesn't revolve around him and things are very different. And constitutionally, it's the Prime Minister's, decision in consultation with the army, who they decide to bring in. And he should just stop doing these childish things. Now, tell me a very good question.
Right, but who's going to tell him that?
I just want to add one thing.
Yes, go ahead. I just have a follow-up question to what you were saying. In terms of what is being talked about regarding the nomination of the army chief, this is something that has been time and again reiterated by the institutions, by the Prime Minister, by everybody else, and it's very clear that the process is there and that's how it's going to happen. And so despite that, we see that he just doesn't understand what really is happening, but he's building his own narrative, and that's having the impact. So he sort of is somehow being re-emphasized in his opinion of the fact that the world in fact does revolve around him, considering the popularity keeps on getting high. So how exactly can we tangibly in action ensure and let him know that that's not the case?
I don't know what he's building, because I don't know that he knows himself what he wants. Because initially, I'm not even going to go way back in the past. Past 2 months, he comes on TV and he says, we don't care who the chief of army staff is. We don't care who gets appointed. Then he goes back, crazy and starts screaming, yelling at his jalsas that we don't want that particular person, and we don't, if my choice is not, other people are not as loyal to the country, and they'll be servicing the imported government and not the country, because he claims to know everything. Then again, his own former defense minister from KP, former KP chief minister, comes and says PTI has no issues with whoever the army chief. I think within the party, or even within Imran Khan's mind, he's not sure what he wants. He is, I think, stuck in a corner, and he is just creating a lot of problems for the country. We have a China trip, which has got concluded. We have floods, the economy. We just got into the rehabilitation phase of people helping the people out. We just got out of FATF. After getting out of the FATF, the stock market and investor confidence should have been shot up like crazy, and we should have seen some really fruitful gains from that. But just because of his long march, the stock market didn't perform. Other people, the investors are very wary. People are holding on to their money. So the economy is, just because of him, it's not going in the right direction. Things are going south. And, we were on the brink of a default. I think this is very wrong. It just really hurts me as a citizen of Pakistan to see this kind of behavior from such a popular leader.
It is indeed hurtful, of course, and it has an impact on the nation as well. Rana Saab, considering, of course, that this is something that has been happening and has its impact on the nation, at the end of the day, of course, we want to be able to also see what sort of a stance the political leadership, the government has in terms of dealing with this situation or dealing with the kind of elements that have been part of the PTI stance. We have heard even the Prime Minister outrightly claim what he thinks of the PTI chairman, what he feels he is doing, or how much damage he is incurring upon the nation. But all being said, despite that, we see that perhaps the whole idea of the PTI chairman or what he represents, that is still being absorbed by the nation, that is still alive and running even post this attack, even post the audio leaks, the cases, all of that. So what sort of a stance or action plan does the government have in terms of dealing with this particular issue and this particular aspect of the PTI's leadership in terms of course, the kind of impact it's having on the nation? Because we see the kind of rebuttals or press conferences or, of course, the statements coming in from the government side, and they may be valid, but at the end of the day, what are we doing about Imran Khan and the impact that he has on the nation?
Only this verbal service will not work, Sana. Some practical steps are to be taken by the government. As my friend Raja Sahab has rightly pointed out, number one, I've made up my mind while sitting here, I should take up this thing in the Senate, and we'll try to form a nucleus to work on that. Maybe we meet the Prime Minister and meet the President as well. They should play their role, especially the President, because he is their man. And maybe it works. But unfortunately, as I've already said, there is always resistance from Imran Khan. This episode, which happened yesterday, do you think it will succeed? It has collapsed right in the beginning. I have been a student of this total phenomena. Look at the evidence he is giving. Absolutely, which is false and cooked up even at the face of it. Nobody is prepared to believe that, and nobody will trust this evidence. His evidence of medical, legal, serological evidence, his forensic evidence, circumstantial evidence, ballistic evidence, all types of evidence are not supporting his story at all. At the most, I can predict today, if there is some conviction takes place in this case, that will be only of that person who fired and he made a confession publicly. There is no evidence from his side, and it's just a cock and bull story. He should avoid fabricating such absolutely baseless stories. That is not becoming of a politician like him. So he'll really have a setback as far as he wants to prosecute and persecute his opponents. That's not a correct attitude and correct policy. Number two, you have said that the efforts which are being made by the government, since I'm from the government, I don't think those are sufficient and those are fulfilling the real needs. These efforts are to be accelerated, and these efforts are to be made productive. For example, if somebody commits a crime and you know that he has committed a crime, you don't take action. If you don't take action, so you will really get a setback, and the government has been getting setback. How much crime has been committed, but no action has been taken. So
but
that is a great
action can be taken even? What sort of action are you referring to?
I'm talking about the action under law.
Yeah.
Action under law. So once you say that there were people brought from KPK with the firearms, what action has been taken by the government? Only that we resort to demagoguery publicly, and time and again we go to the Supreme Court. Why don't you use your own original power judiciously and effectively? That has not been done. So therefore this result is there. The situation has gone volcanic. It's therefore because we have not been able to take action at appropriate level and at the proper time. So this is a great area of weakness which is to be addressed. But as far as the efforts, as you have mentioned, Prime Minister's visit in China, visit in Saudi Arabia made a commitment to give $12 billion for investment here. Chinese, they have accelerated their initiative, which was dormant. Goes to credit to Mr. Imran Khan, that it was frozen. Such a brilliant project of CPAC, which could be a time changer, that was frozen. It's all the great leader act imaginatively, unfortunately. So I think there's a great light at the end of the tunnel. Things are not very good at this stage, but we're going to improve, inshallah, because the
Right.
stakeholders,
Thank you very
the
much,
main
Rana Saab, for that
stakeholders,
hope, because of course all of us really need that because it seems to be a very, very, very small tunnel, but we really want to look into it and see that something actually comes out of it. But thank you very much for joining us in the debate, and thank you very much, Ali Rashid, for being part of the debate as well, and Farooq and Faisal, of course, for being part of the discussion. What is important here to understand by everyone at large is the fact that Pakistan is of utmost importance. The people of Pakistan are the priority, and that is what should be of utmost importance to all political leaders as well. And so we hope that that is what actually prevails, and that the people who are in the decision-making capacity actually think about that when they move forward. That's all that we have from the debate. Have a nice weekend. See you Monday.